Hello, and I'm going to do an autumn themed card for you today using lots of autumny colours. This is the card I'm going to show you how to do. So as you can see, there's quite a lot going on, but it is straightforward. It's not particularly complicated. I would say it's more fiddly than complicated, but it provides a really good, nice card and has some really lovely autumny colours. So just out of interest, we're using a range of colours including Mango Melody, which is that little one, Pumpkin Pie, which you can see here, and the dark orange. And I've also got Crushed Curry, which does that one and that in there. And then to just make sure those really look autumny, I've just picked it out with a little bit of Granny Apple Green and some soft sea foam. Sorry, you can't say that, I put my teeth in. And then for the base of the card and the front envelope, I've used one of the in colours this year, which is the Cinnamon Cider. So I think that gives a really nice autumny effect. And I'll show you how to do it now. Okay. So start off, I've got just a normal Cinnamon Cider coloured card base. And then just to, if I bring back in the original as well, you'll see. I don't know if you can see, if I can bring it to a point where you can see it. I've embossed the Whisper White base with, and this is the Coastal Weave embossing folder, so it gives a really nice sort of textured effect sitting behind it. I just think, there are lots of different embossing folders you could do. You could do the linen effect one. I quite like Coastal Weave because it's more of a crisscross, and I think that gives a sort of basket impression if you're thinking about like harvest festivals or things like that you could use. So first of all, I'm going to take, there we go, I can see it a bit more effectively there. This is the Coastal Weave. And you will find that there's the embossing folder gives it two distinct different types of sides. So in this instance, I'm doing the one that I would feel is slightly smoother to be on the top. So I'm just going to take some dimensionals and I'm just going to pop dimensionals onto the corners. Now, the next factor I've got is I've made a little envelope shape, very straightforward, and I think for lots of people it's like a gift card size. So the final size of my envelope, if I was doing a whole envelope, would be I think something like 3 inches by 2.5 inches, and you get that out of a piece of cardstock which is 5 inches by 5 inches. I've rounded the ends so it's all nice and neat. So I'm folding in the two, because what we're going to have is we're going to do the flower display, if you like, within the envelope. So I'm going to make up the envelope first. So putting the two inside flats in first, and I'm just going to use some adhesive on the side bits because you don't want to stick one of the long down, otherwise you won't get your flower display in. And then just put that down lightly, and then you've got your envelope so it works and we'll be able to stick your flowers in. So now this is the fun bit, arranging all the different shapes and things. So I've used the FOREVER Flourishing dies to cut out a whole range of different flower shapes. So these are the 4 building blocks, and as you can see, I've got a crushed curry, a mango melody, a crushed curry, and a pumpkin pie, because I want to see if I can have a bit of contrasting colour. So I'm using the biggest shapes at the back, and they just fit into the envelope. So then you can balance them so you have bits of the leaves just sticking out over the top of the edges of the envelope. Let's do the next one. So what I'm going to do is just sort of position them first to get a feel for it. And if you need to, you can adjust, you can move them in a bit. Because the other thing to do is to compare it. Oops, I'm going to fall over. I knew this was going to happen. I said it was fiddly more than anything. So I want my envelope to be a bit of an angle. So it's not, you can have it straight on if you want, but I just think it's slightly better at a slight angle. So what you're just going to have to make sure is that the piece of cutout isn't over the edges of your card, otherwise you won't fit it into the envelope. So just bear that in mind when you're positioning. So have the base card in the area so you can see. And so for example, I think I might go with something a bit like that. There we go. So that's how I'm going to do my back tooth. So that will be my first point of sticking. So get rid of the base card, so you don't want to accidentally get glue on there, and just try and remember the parameters of where you're sticking it in. I'm going to take that one out first. Now this is my first one, so I'm going to use a fine tip glue and just put a small drop of glue onto some of these leaves. Make sure, if you've got glue on the back, make sure you don't stick it down to this any paper underneath. There we go. I'm going to do the same with the Mango Melody. I have to say this is probably my favourite autumny colour. I'm just going to turn it over for a second and just give it a bit of a press on the back, just to make sure that's all really stuck down nicely, because they're going to be, if they're floating around and they're your base shapes, then you could be in a bit of a pickle. So just take the base card and just make sure you're happy with how it's looking in terms of whatever angle you want your envelope to be. Okay, that's good. Now I'm going to do the same for the next shape. And really what you're doing is just building up a series of layers, and they will overlap, and you're just building a sort of display, really, a flower display. So I like that at the moment. And again, I'm just going to compare it with my base and make sure it's doing what I want it to do. Yeah, I can still have the envelope at a slight angle, which is good. Now the final pieces I've got are much smaller, so I'll just bring those in, because they're a bit, this is where it gets to be a bit on the fiddly side. So whilst all the yellows and oranges have been made with the Forever Flourishing dies, I've also used a couple of punches, and I've used in particular, I've always loved this. This is a sprig punch. I have to say, this is, I think, a really versatile shape. To me, these are also deer antlers or all sorts of things. So one of my favourite punches in that sense are these sprig punch. So as you can see, if I bring my original over, you can see that we just use the green to give a little bit of contrast in the leaves behind it. So actually it's the greens that go on next. So work out with your sprigs where the greens are going to go. And don't forget, you can always cut them or change them. I'm just having a bit of a fiddle to get that one in. So I'm going to put one there, I think, and one here. So just going to be a bit of a contrast. No, I'm not so happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I take them out. Now at this point you can take them out. I'm just going to lift that envelope bit up, because what I want is I want it to go more over to the left. There we go. More sort of tucked in. Because what you're going to do is, so they're going to go somewhere like that. Excuse me. Then the other thing with the flourishing phrase is you get this lovely wreath. So I was going to make this my centre point, if you like. And then on top of that, I was going to put, again using one of the punches, this is a small bloom punch, my centre flower. So I'm just having a bit of a play to just see if these are in where I want them to be. I just want those greens a little bit higher. So it's about fiddling really, and to get it to the point where you want it. So I quite like my green sprigs where they are, so I'm just going to glue those up. To make sure that all fits on. So the other thing you can do with a small bloom punch, and as I have done with this one, let me show you on this one first. If I tilt it, can you see, I'm trying to see if I can get it to a point where you can see they're slightly raised. I'm trying to see if I can get the angle. There we go. They're slightly, the flower is slightly raised. I'm having a little trouble showing this. And the petals of the flower just come up slightly. So if you take a bone folder, you've got your punched out shape, just very gently go to the centre and just pull back. And what it does is it just sufficiently moves the weave of the paper to make them very slightly curl. So if I put it on the back of my hand, you can see it's now not flat. It does actually curl I can't show that at all. Sorry. Anyway, so I've got a curly one from earlier, but this one, because it's a bit proud on the front, I'm just going to use a different type of glue on this one. Now, the final little bit of leaf shapes. I've got 4 tiny little leaves, not leaves. What's that with me? And so if you've got an area where you think you might just need a little shape or some extra, so these are sort of fillers, if you like. You want to add in an extra colour. So they don't have to be huge, so I'm just going to glue these up. And obviously, if you wanted to, you could add a sentiment. There's plenty of space on the bottom of the envelope. But in this case, I'm just going to use some of the natural, sorry, I cut off a bit earlier, natural twine, because I think it needs to go around quite a few times. So when I'm adding my twine, I do a nice bit of glue to hold it to start with. And then, oops, I've just lost a leaf. I can sort that out in a moment. I'm going to go around a few times. I've got a wayward pumpkin pie coloured leaf here. Right, and now I'm just going to adjust my natural twine. It's a little bit high on one side. You could have fewer twines if you want to. And then just to finish off, I'm going to do a champagne coloured Diamante, because I think that just continues the autumn feel to it. Carefully working out your positioning and just obviously trying to make sure everything is still able to fit into an envelope. Come down a little bit. There we go. So there's the one we've made today, and that's the one. And as you can see, I think the champagne Diamante is a lot more glamorous than the cinnamon cider in colour, but it depends what type of effect you're trying to give. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing what you manage to make with your autumn flower displays on your cards. Thank you very much.